welcome to Co-ople Mode, a couple's opinion on gaming. I'm Matt.
I'm Rose.
Welcome back from being Batman.
I'm done being Batman for now.
Yep.
I gotta put my cape away.
It's time to hang up the cowl. It's time to get off the insane asylum. It's time to come back to the light.
Be with the normal people.
Yeah, stop stalking the night. You probably have no idea.
No,
because
I do not.
Actually have not played this game leading up to it.
Oh, sneaky.
I know.
Sneaky.
I was being very sneaky. I think it's time.
Oh.
See, I love saying that because I watch her face just drop. Every time I say that, she thinks I'm going to say it's Elden Ring time right afterwards.
Or like a Dark Souls 2 or something. Or
oh, no, I'll make you pay Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, the hardest one.
What other bad thing have you threatened me with before? Oh, boy, there was something. It's the Earth Defense Force 5, isn't it? Oh, God.
I wish it was, but it's
I'm
not.
so glad it's not. Oh, jeez.
You know what? When we do get to that, you're going to be like, this is actually kind of fun.
No, I don't want to play it.
Oh, you don't even know. You're going to be playing
You're going to eat your peas and you're going to like it.
The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Oh, okay.
It's time. Now, we've talked about this before. You have played
I got
the
to play
very
for like
beginning.
one day.
Yeah, one day, like an hour and a half.
And then my Switch was commandeered.
And then our son was playing constantly. I was playing constantly.
And I was like, I'll be patient and I'll wait my turn.
That's the thing. This is the thing. It came out on Switch and Wii U. I didn't have a Switch at the time because you couldn't even get one back when this game came out. It was so hard to get one. And I had it for Wii U, and you have your qualms about playing things on the Wii U anyways. So
I don't like the Wii U.
And
that does bring back a memory of being like, no, I'm gonna wait.
Yeah,
I'm not playing
that's why she part of the reason why she was so patient. It's also I thought since The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is coming out this year.
It's coming out soon.
Yep, May 12th, 2023.
Oh crap, real soon.
Yeah, real soon. And I thought, you know what? You need a chance to play this great game, and what better excuse than your husband forcing you to play it to talk on a podcast about it. Woo!
It's for research. Leave me alone.
If you do not yell that while you like hound yourself away into the bedroom with the Switch, just for research.
That's exactly what I thought of too. Everybody shut up and go away.
Oh
Feed
my
yourselves.
God, that's so good. I want to use that. Oh, that's so good. Okay, so Breath of the Wild, which I'm going to shorten to saying that instead of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild because that is way too much of a mouthful, was developed and published by guess who? Nintendo. Woo, who'd have guessed? It was originally released March of 2017. And the development of this game actually took 5 years.
It was. I remember it was a long time.
Development
because
cycle.
the one before that was Twilight Princess, correct?
Let me think. For
the GameCube, or no,
Skyward Sword for the Wii. Yup.
That's what it was.
Yup. That was the last one. Holy moly, yeah.
Yeah, we waited a long time.
It was originally teased for the Wii U at the beginning of 2013, and planned for a release in 2015, but they delayed the game once, and then the series creator reaffirmed that the game would still release for the Wii U, even though they were already developing for the Switch at the time. So people were worried that like, oh, it's not going to come out on the Wii U. Sure. We're not going to get a chance to play it. They ended up delaying it again in April 2016 because they were having some problems with their physics engine. And they're like, you know what? We just want to make sure this game is as good as it's going to be. And it's one of the few times where like this game was delayed twice for a long period of time. But when it finally came out, it was 100% worth the wait. And this is like a textbook example of, hey, give us a little more time to really polish this game. Like there's some jokes in the industry that they keep delaying a game for like 8 years or something like that. And it's like, okay, just either release what you have or get rid of it. Like there's a certain point, like, did you just change the whole game 3 times? Like what happened?
I mean, that kind of stuff happens with games and movies sometimes, but
it does. But yeah, so this is a textbook case of, hey, wait, we're going to make it worth your wait. And they definitely did. Breath of the Wild launched for both the Wii U and the Switch, and it was the last Nintendo game released for the Wii U. The very last one.
Yeah.
Yep. And if you're going to pick a last game on the Wii U, that's a good one to pick for sure.
It's a good way to go.
The Metacritic score is 97 on the Switch and 96 on the Wii U. And that's just
because it's a Wii U.
Well, it's not because it's the Wii U. It's just because the Switch has a little better music quality, and docked, it looks a little better. It's just, it's a better machine, right? It runs better on there. So
what I said.
Yeah, fine. Fine. I get defensive about her Wii U hate, and I don't know why.
I don't even know why.
Breath of the Wild definitely received universal acclaim, according to the review aggregate. According to Metacritic. I'm not going to say all that nonsense. The game is the highest rated game of 2017 on Metacritic, and it holds the largest number of perfect reviews of any game from any year.
Wow.
Yep.
Any game?
Any game, any year. It had the most perfect reviews. 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5s, 5-star, all that. And, of course, lots of critics call this game a masterpiece. And it is.
And I've just been sitting on it for like 5 years.
Yep, just sitting on it.
God.
Nintendo said that Breath of the Wild sold more than 1 million copies in the U.S. that month, 925,000 of which were for the Switch, a 100% attach rate. So by that, everybody who bought a copy of the Switch version of Breath of the Wild also bought a Switch. But that was I think that was right around the release time of the Switch as well.
Yeah.
And part of me is like, man, that's only the numbers of how much they sold. But I remember this because a lot of people are like, I'm waiting to buy the Breath of the Wild until I can buy a Switch. Mm-hmm. So I think it actually, in a way, prolonged the sales of the Switch, prolonged the sales of this game over the next year or two, because people new Switches are available. Get my Legend of Zelda. I can finally play this game. I'm seeing everybody throw up on YouTube.
I wanna play.
Yeah, exactly. I already had the Wii U at the time, so it was I couldn't get a Switch. It just makes more. I wanted to play this game.
Yeah,
it was a good game, and it was worth it to me to get it. But definitely, I understand other people who may have not had a Wii U. Why would you buy a Wii U to play this game when you could just wait to buy a Switch?
Oh,
right?
Definitely.
As of 2022, Breath of the Wild has sold 29 million copies for the Switch. For the Switch alone, 29 million copies. And I think the last time they reported how many copies sold on the Wii U was 2020, and that was 1.69 million copies.
That's a nice little bit.
So it really goes to show what I just said, that everybody just waited to buy it on Switch.
That's how I felt.
Right?
I wanted a Switch before I started to play it.
Yep.
That's exactly how I felt.
Obviously, this game won numerous Game of the Year awards, along with awards for game design, game innovation, best audio, just to name a few, best game direction. This game won so many awards, it's ridiculous. I should show you the page, and it's nominated, not half of them are nominated and half of them they won. It's stupid how many this thing won. Oh, and a fun little tidbit I found. In 2021, there was a poll conducted by TV Asahi over in Japan. They polled over 50,000 Japanese users, and Breath of the Wild was voted the best console game of all time, above Dragon Quest V at number 2.
Wow. That's saying something,
And
everybody.
we went over on our Dragon Quest episode how much
they
Japan
love
loves the Dragon Quest series.
Love Dragon Quest.
It is often looked at as the game of Japan, and Breath of the Wild won out.
That's nuts.
Yep. Isn't that crazy? So some of the fun stuff I was learning about was they wanted to kind of go back to their roots a little bit and innovate this game at the same time. So players are given very minimal instruction of what to do, and they can explore this open world freely. Mm-hmm. If you want to run right to the big bad castle, you can, with your 3 hearts and a stick. You can freaking
challenge.
You'll see people, and I know anybody who's seen a freaking Breath of the Wild TikTok will watch someone like freaking chop down a tree, stasis it, smack the shit out of it, and ride that baby all the way to freaking Hyrule Castle. And like, it's ridiculous. And it just goes to show how cool and interesting that this physics engine that they made was. Like, they really wanted to give you the freedom to come at problems any way you wanted. And you really can. There are some wild things you can do in this game if you get really good. And people are still playing this game like constantly today and finding new things you can do and wild shit you can do.
Boy, that's putting a lot of pressure on.
No, you don't have to do any of that crazy stuff.
No, on the new game that they're making.
Oh, yeah. I got some. I am going to. There is something I found out about the new one that I'll bring up a little later. And on wanting to like rethink how they did The Legend of Zelda, they added in the physics engine. They added in like a certain chemistry between how objects will react with each other. And they went to Monolith Soft, the creator of the Xenoblade Chronicles series. Mm-hmm. Now, you remember I showed you some videos of like what the Switch is capable of? And I showed you Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Yeah. Like, the world looked amazing. They assisted in designing the landscapes and topography of this game, which I thought was really cool because they do make these really cool big open areas. They're very good at it. And it actually makes so much sense to me that they did help with this one because it kind of has that vibe and that feeling. Like, it just, you're standing on that plateau at the beginning of the game and you're looking out and you just, like, it's epic. Like, what
everything
you can see
is so natural and full. There's stuff everywhere.
Yeah, and if you can see it, you can get to it at some point, you know. And talking about that chemistry engine I was talking about before, it defines the physical properties of the objects and governs how they interact with each other. For example, this is one of the cool things that happens is during thunderstorms, any metal objects you have equipped on you will attract powerful lightning strikes during a storm.
Oh no.
So if you got your metal sword on your back or a metal shield, you'll start
walking lightning.
It'll be like, you'll see like Zinogre, like lightning bugs kind of like sparkling around it. And you're like, what the, and you get lightning.
No.
But you could take that metal sword, chuck it at an enemy and attract lightning strikes over by where they're at instead. So you could use that to your advantage. And it's like fun to like figure out the different things you can do. There's just so many wild things. You can just drop a big metal box on guys, like whatever you want to do. This game really promotes exploration, experimentation. Like the two big things about this game. Like, do it how you want. You could play this game and not
do the same thing the next time at all.
You could mix it up. You could go a different way. When you play this, if you don't beat a boss, that's fine because there's so much to explore and discover in this game that's like the main joy of it. And you like to explore on a game, especially when it actually can lead you somewhere.
Yeah. And like you said, even if you don't complete the thing that you found all the way, you can go somewhere else, level up more, get better, get stronger, come back and wipe the floor with that guy that kicked your ass the first time. I love doing stuff like that.
You can do that. Not so much level up in this game as it is you learn what you're capable of, but you do get better equipment, or you like
better equipment, more hearts.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. More hearts. That's I guess that's leveling up in Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
So Nintendo never developed an open world game on this scale, right?
Yeah.
So they took a close look at Elder Scrolls Skyrim, which was like the biggest one. Yeah. And the Shadow of Colossus, which now that I think about is something I should put on your list because I think you'll think that's really cool. I know I don't want to get too distracted, but Shadow Colossus is essentially all boss fights. It's got this kind of, I want to say it's like this sad feel. You're on this adventure and you're trying to save your loved one. Your loved one died and you're told if you kill these 13, I think, beasts, these huge colossus, you can resurrect her and bring her back to life. But it's almost sad what you're doing to these big, huge stone creatures. You're climbing up on them. And like part of the Zelda climbing mechanic kind of comes from this game.
Okay.
But it is a really cool game, and that one is very much about the vibe. Like, it's just lonely as you're going across the landscape until you find one of these colossus. Well, let's see what I can do. And I think you would like that. It
sounds good. It sounds romantic and sad.
Yes, that is exactly the vibe. Romantic and sad. The creator of Shadow of Colossus was actually friends with the producer of Breath of the Wild. Okay. So that's part of the reason I think they're like, yeah, I think that would work. We should put that in our game too. Breath of the Wild is the first main Zelda game to have voice acting in cutscenes. Yep, there's actually voices for everyone except Link. Link does not get voices. The producer, when he heard it, he was really moved by hearing voices in these characters for the first time, and he really enjoyed it. So he added voices to more than just these like main cutscenes they had. So like almost all the cutscenes will have voice acting in them now, because he's like, it's just good. I want everyone to be like moved by it like I was. And I get that feeling like, oh, it's so cool to see this character that I've worked with so hard brought to life. I want everyone to have this feeling just like me. There is 2 key DLCs that came out for this game since it's come out.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, it has DLC content. The Master Trials was released first, and it featured this Trial of the Sword. So basically you started in this forest and you had to go through like so many rooms fighting enemies. You start with nothing and you kind of build up as you go, right? If you lose, you got to start over back at the beginning. Kind of like a mini roguelite, right?
Yep.
But there's 3 different levels of challenges, and every time you beat one, your Master Sword gets a power up.
Okay.
Because you do get the Master Sword in this game, and it's the only it's the only weapon I know of right now. I'm going to say that. Only weapon I personally know of that doesn't break when you use it, because there's durability for your weapons in the game, which is a very contested feature. Some people really like it, and some people really hate it.
Yeah.
And it threw me off at first, if I'm being honest, because like my weapon will break. You find a really cool weapon, you want to keep it, right? And then you use it, and then it breaks. But I also think it adds more fluidity to the game. Like, it kind of forces you to be like, it's okay to let go of this weapon. I'll find another one. I'll find more. Like, I'm always going to find something else to replace it. So keep a couple like backups for big things, but for the most part, it's okay to use stuff, you know. Don't it'll help with your attachment issues.
I'm just thinking about the companion cube now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Companion cube from Portal. Oh no. The other DLC was called the Champion's Ballad, and it added a new dungeon, some more story content, new gear, you know, the normal DLC stuff. But also the Master Cycle Zero, which is essentially a motorcycle you can ride. Because normally you can ride horses in this game, and then they added this motorcycle in there.
Sick.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool, right? Like, I could just as I'm going around the world.
Iron horse.
Why? Yeah, on an iron horse I ride. I'm worried, dead or alive. Very much so. In the years since this game's release, multiple games and developers have cited Breath of Wild as inspiration, including games such as Genshin Impact, Ghost of Tsushima, Immortals, Phoenix Rising, Telling Lies, Halo Infinite, Elden Ring, and Forspoken.
Oh, wow.
Which is
That's
bunch
quite
of
a
big
list
names.
right there.
Yeah.
That's a very nice compliment.
Very much so. Similarities have also been noted between other open world games since its launch, including Pokemon Legends Arceus, Sonic Frontiers, and Horizon Forbidden West. So it's one of those things where like it kind of redefines what an open world game can be and what you can do in a way. Like the vibe and the feel and how it plays and how it works. And other people want to emulate that. And I've talked about this before. When a game does it so right, other people are like, that's good. I should add that to my game.
There's a very different way that you have to go about the gameplay and the story completely. And I can see how that can be a lot of work.
I think this is where I feel that the game industry can only bring itself up. Like, there are some old games that will just hold up. They hold up over time because they're that fun, right?
Right.
But overall,
Tetris.
yeah, right. Tetris is a really great
doesn't
example.
get old.
But a lot of times, like especially for third-person games, since this happened, like Mario redefined 3D platforming, and like Halo added the twin stick shooting that became so popular in first-person shooters. Like Halo was one of the first ones to do that, and if a game does it so right, other ones like, yeah, why didn't we do this? Why didn't we think of this? This is easier. This feels good. This feels right. Let's do this. Let's improve it. And like, that's how it is. It's just like people keep making good things better. And I think that's a cool thing about the game industry. I don't believe in outright blatantly ripping things off, but I also believe in taking inspirations to make the best game that you can make. Because I'm not going to complain about more fun things to play. Mm-hmm. So the sequel, Tears of the Kingdom, was announced in 2019. Uh-huh. And the title's been revealed now, Tears of the Kingdom. It was actually conceived when they were planning Breath of the Wild's DLC. So when they were planning to make all the DLC for Breath of the Wild, the team came up with so many ideas, and they couldn't even implement some of them because of technical constraints. So that stuff they couldn't use, they put it in the sequel. So there's new things you can do. So they built a top of the original's world with a new story and new gameplay elements. And I think that's a very exciting thing. Apparently, they said they were inspired in part by Red Dead Redemption 2.
Really?
Yeah, which I thought was interesting. So I don't know if it's... I'm curious to think what part of that inspired them.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what that would be exactly. I don't know a lot about that game because I never played it, but I've seen you play Red Dead 1 and 2.
Yeah, I love even Red Dead Revolver, the original Red Dead Redemption. I also played through, beat even the zombie mode I beat. And I haven't gotten, I think I got about halfway through Red Dead Redemption 2. And I played online a little bit, but I would go back. If I went back to it, I would start at the beginning again. But it's very slow and measured. It's like reading a Western or watching Lonesome Dove. Like, it takes time to get there, and it's a good story. It's not like Lonesome Dove's good, right?
Yeah.
But it's a time investment, right? And it's so hard to commit myself to that much time, which is sad because I didn't get to experience as much of the game as I could have. And that kind of bums me out, but I own it, and I know there's going to come a day where, you know what, I'm going to go back to it and give it a shot, you know?
When you're 76 and you get to retire, you're going to have time.
Yeah, that'll be it. That'll be it. I am very excited for you to finally get your chance to play this game. And it'll be fun to see how you end up going about it. Like, there's just so many cool things. And I love how this game starts. It kind of, like, you wake up, you're an amnesiac, right? You don't really know what's going on. You kind of get pulled to certain things. Mm-hmm. And this is probably the biggest direction the game gives you. Like, hey, go to these special shrines, solve the puzzles.
I vaguely remember that.
Yep, because that gives you the basic tools you need to go forward in the game.
Do something with your life.
Yeah, it gives you your bombs. It gives you your stasis, your magnet, like all the things you need to really fully interact with the world, right? And then once you do all that, it's like, okay, here you go. Jump off this plateau into the world. Have fun. And you do. It's like, where do I go? I guess I'll go this way. And, you know, you do. It does give you some pointers if you really desire that. Like, it gives you some main storyline places to go to. Uh-huh. But what order you do, that's up to you. Where you go is up to you, you know? And there's so many fun little things. It's fun finding the great fairies, and they upgrade your armor for you by giving you a big kiss, even though their head's like 10 times the size of your body. You go down a mountain and you can do a shield slide. Like, you surf on your shield, which is so cool. So you're on like a big snowy mountain. Boop, I'm just going to slide down the mountain on my shield.
There was something similar to that in Skyward Sword, I believe. What was the snowy mountain with the bowling?
That was me. That was me. You were watching me play Breath of the Wild.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I was doing the sno bowling for the money. It's the best way to get rupees in the game.
Oh, okay.
I rushed over there.
I mixed them up.
Yeah, I've started
Feels like that was so long ago.
But I mean, 2017 was a minute ago.
Oh, stop.
And like finding the new weapons and the new things you can find. And another fun thing is the Zelda amiibos.
The what?
The Zelda amiibos. So all the different Legend of Zelda
I was like, what's an amiibo? I have 2 of them on my entertainment center.
It's one of those things I wish I could collect a lot more of because there's so many cool ones. There's Monster Hunter ones. I really should pick up one just because it's the Magnum Malo looks so cool.
There's a Magnum Malo?
There's a Magnum Malo one. I want it so bad.
Why didn't you buy it?
Because I hadn't played Rise yet, and I was like, there's no reason to get, I talk myself out of things a lot more than I talk myself into, and I guess that's probably the right way to do it. But I think I'm at a point in my life where it's like, if I want a Magnum Malo amiibo, I should just have a Magnum Malo amiibo. But
I'm an adult and I got my own money.
So using any amiibo, you can use it in the game and it will drop a chest that'll give you some items, some food items for cooking, some money, monster parts, whatever. But if you use Zelda specific amiibos, you can actually get weapons and equipment from the various Zelda games.
Oh, okay.
Which is really cool. So if you use the Twilight Princess Wolf amiibo, you can get Twilight Princess armor. If you use the Link amiibo I have, the first time you use it, and you gotta better wait to use it until you can get a horse, Epona shows up, and you can have Epona as your horse.
That's right.
Make sure to wait until you're near a stable where you can save it, because if you save your game and you lose where Epona is before you stabled her, gone.
Forever?
Gone forever. You never get an Epona again. So be careful. If you do Wind Waker, you can get some like Wind Waker clothes. I think even afterwards, the Zelda one can eventually, if you get Majora's Mask one, you can get Fierce Deity armor and the Fierce Deity sword.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yep. So there's a lot of different sets of equipment. I have to look it up again. But like you get to use each amiibo once a day. So you have a chance of getting one of those armors, So I think it's usually head, body, legs. I think it's split into 3 generally. And what I would do is I'd save my game, use the amiibo, and did I get one of the special pieces of equipment? Nope. Quit, reload, use the amiibo again. Because that's what it's based off your save file.
Okay.
So it's save scumming, but I was like, I am not gonna go God knows how long not getting this armor. If I can only get one piece a day, I'm making sure I get one piece a day. You know what I mean?
I'm a child. I don't have time for this.
I don't have time for it. So what's your excitement level? How you feeling?
10 out of 10.
Yeah,
this might be the thing that will release me from Monster Hunter's grasp a little bit. It might do that because I really love Zelda games.
They're so good.
I have wanted to play this, and now I got an excuse and a reason.
I'm excited
to curl myself up in the corner of the couch with a blanket and a beer and just game my little heart out.
I love it. I'm excited to see. Where you get. And I guarantee you there's going to come a point where you're going to want to show me something. And
oh, yeah, cool. I'm sure.
Oh.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of points when I'm like, what do I do here?
Sometimes the hardest part about having you play these games is like, have you played this game? It's like, I want to play it too, Like,
yeah, I've seen your sad, mopey face as you look over at me once in a while.
I got it.
Looks like you're having fun.
I have to crack down, though, and I have 3 games
You're
currently.
The one with all the knowledge. Like, you know all the fun things to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I know.
I get it when you're seeing... Like, it would be like you playing Monster Hunter in front of me and I couldn't play. I'd be like, come on, man, this kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But I'm not you. You've got all these other cool things that you secretly know about. You'd be like, screw you. I'm going to go do this. This is even cooler.
I got other things I can do. But I'm going to
go finish
I have
Red
to
Dead
be good.
Redemption 2.
I've been putting off... I have 3 games games that I need to put some time in before I have you play them. And it's like, I better just crack down and do that. And I'm like, I need you to play a single player game so I can crack down and do it.
Oh, yeah? I'll stop begging you to play Monster Hunter with me.
If this gets your hooks in you, then you'll really play. And then it's like, okay, now I don't feel bad and I can just focus
I was going to ask if you wanted to Monster Hunt tonight, but maybe.
We'll see, huh?
Just one more night?
Just one more night. All right, let's get out of here. Let's get you into some Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
I am very excited.
I am excited too. And we'll see you guys in a little bit. Bye-bye. Hello and welcome back. We spent some time in the beautiful vistas of Hyrule, and it's time to hear about how you feel about it.
How do I feel about Breath of the Wild? Well, it's hard to know where to start. There's so much to this game. It was so much bigger than I thought it was going to be. It was so much big. Like, I thought it would be big, but it was so much bigger than what you think. And I think back like 5 years ago when we got it, I think that's why I was okay with like, I'll wait till you guys are done. Because I saw how big it was and I was like, oh no, this is almost like Skyrim all over again. Yeah. There's so much to explore. There's so much to do. There's so many things to find. There's so many puzzles to figure out. And I was pointing this out to you the other night when I was playing. You will be in an area and like right over a ridge, right over a plain, right next to you is something else really big and important. And you don't even know that it's there. You come back later and you're like, I was just over here and I didn't even see all this stuff here.
Yep.
It's wild. But if we're going to start at the beginning, like the way it starts up, it throws you in it right away. There's not a lot of exposition off the bat, which is different than previous Zelda games. Mm-hmm. And I gotta say, I like it. Like, it throws you in right away. You're running around, you're picking up stuff, you're gathering like bugs and lizards and weapons and shields. And you're on the Great Plateau, and there's 4 initial shrines that you get told you gotta figure out. Once you figure those out, you get your different powers for your Sheikah Slate. And then you get the King of Hyrule coming to you explaining the story. And at that point, you've already played quite a bit.
Yeah. It's like a long tutorial, basically.
I mean, it is, but it doesn't feel like a tutorial. So it's a really nice way to do it. And it's really different than other games that I've played before. Mm-hmm. I really like it, though. I mean, it's a good way of throwing you in, but also not giving you so much that you're overwhelmed, right?
Exactly. Because there's a lot to the game, right? By
the time you see the King of Hyrule and he gives you the background story, you feel more ready for it. You're more invested in it, and it's more interesting. And I gotta say, overall, the way that this game does storyline is absolutely perfect to me.
Oh, okay.
Every time I get a piece of story, I'm so ready for it, and I want to hear it, and I want to watch the cutscene, and I want to know what's going on. I love the way that they progress this story.
I guess how I remember it is I feel like you said, in the beginning, it's like, hey, go to these shrines, you'll find some useful stuff there. And then you do that, and then he's like, oh, yeah, I'm the King of Hyrule, and I'm a ghost, and I'm going to tell you what's actually going on. It's like, okay, I can hang with that. And then you're out in the world, and it feels like you have, like, so many directions you can go, but no matter which direction you go, you kind of get, like, a little breadcrumb here, a little breadcrumb there. There's, like, a memory spot you come across.
Right.
Or, like, you just get these, like, little snippets until you actually get to an area, and then you get like a bunch of like actual big story stuff.
You actually want to know about it. You want to find those spots because it's not shoving it down your throat constantly. And in this way, like Brutal Legend did that really well too, where you wanted to find those lore spots. This is kind of like that. You want to find those. You want to know the story more. And anybody that's played Zelda games knows like the basic concept is usually the same, but the twist on it this time is done in a nice way that keeps it a little fresher, a little more interesting. There's a little more to it. And
you gotta just be honest with yourselves. We love this basic story. That's the reason why we've been playing it for 20 plus years. Like, it doesn't get old, right?
Well,
we want to go meet the Zoras and the Gorons and the Gerudo. We want to go see all these places again because we love them so much, right?
Yeah, it is fun. How do I put it? It's like you're getting revisions on the story. You got all these familiar elements that you look forward to because you loved them before, but there's always some different twist. They look a little different. They might have like a different hierarchical structure, or just like the design of them and where they live. You go to like Ocarina of Time Zelda. You find the Zoras, and like they're cool. They're kind of living in this cave. They're a little more wild, right? You go to the Zoras in Breath of the Wild, and they have these beautiful, elegant looking buildings on a lake,
right.
And you can swim around to get it. It's almost like water elves,
It always feels to me like every consecutive game we get in this franchise, they're always improving on it and expanding on it.
Yeah. Yep.
And I always notice the old things mixed in with new ideas. And I think that's why everybody loves it so much. It makes it so that you really want to see, like, what did they add to it next? Because we love seeing the Zora, we love seeing the Gorons, but how did they change it up? What did they keep in? I mean, I came across Beetle selling items in Breath of the Wild, and I was so happy to see him. Like, right away who that is, because that face is so recognizable. He's there to sell you stuff, and that's from Wind Waker. He showed up, and I love mixing in all different Zeldas, all different things. I mean, even the Gerudo always makes me think of Ocarina of Time right off the bat. I just really appreciate how they can keep giving us what we want, but also making it better each time and different enough that it's still super fun. There's a lot of games that don't repeat their recipe very well, and I don't know how they do it, but they've got this down, and it's done really, really well.
I would say, though, this game, because we talked about when...
They've made a lot of big changes,
yeah,
right?
When we did the Link to the Past, right?
Yeah.
And I was talking about how A Link to a Past really solidified the main Zelda formula, right?
And you can see that, right?
Yeah, 3 dungeons, Master Sword, 8 dungeons, final boss. And that format works really, really well. This one, they kind of really just change it. And this is what I was talking about. It's more like the original Zelda, where the very first one, where you just like, hey, here you are in this world, figure it out.
Good luck.
And that's what this game is on an even bigger scale.
On a huge scale. I can't express enough how huge this map is.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't even cleared half of it at this point, and I've been playing this hard. I've been playing this really hard. I've been trying. I even was homesick for a day, and I was like, well, can't work, but I can get work done on this.
Yeah. Time for my podcast work.
I mean, it's never ending. The towers that you got to find, the shrines you got to find. One thing I love in this one is finding the Korok puzzles and getting Korok seeds. I love those little guys, and it's fun doing their little puzzles. It's just like no pressure. It's pretty easy most of the time. There's a few that I know I haven't quite figured out yet. Like, one is in the river. In a river, I found a ring of rocks, and I know that there's rocks nearby, and I feel like I need to throw a rock into that rock ring, but I can't get them in there quite right. So yeah, I'm sure there's a trick to it or whatever, but for the most part, you figure them out pretty easily.
Next time you see a ring of lily pads or whatever in the water, just try to dive into that.
Just dive into it? Okay.
Yeah, try that next time.
That's the trick.
It's funny, for most of the time you've been playing this, you've been playing it in the handheld mode on the Switch, so I haven't been able to see a lot of what you were doing. I think it was just like the last couple days you actually were throwing it on the TV, and then I was seeing stuff. And it's funny to think about things that I didn't think about for no good reason, and you did. Like, I was always irritated by trying to catch those lizards because they always just scurry away, like immediately. They're so fast, right? And so I had the was it the Impa armor, that the stealth ninja armor that you get?
Sheikah armor,
yeah,
I believe.
Sheikah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I had that, and then like, okay, it's fine. I can run up and catch them before they start running away. And she's over here like, oh, I just use my bow, and she snipes them, and then they die, and then she can pick them up without having to worry. And I just never thought about that. Like, and I showed you when you find those big damaged metal boxes, use your little magnet rune and drop them, and you get some like free items in there.
Yeah,
money.
usually some roasted meat and a little bit of rupees, which is another cool thing about Breath of the Wild. I've never played a Zelda game where rupees are so rare. Usually you got rupees so many everywhere, you don't even want to see green rupees anymore.
Yep.
And on this one, you're like, holy shit, a rupee? Yep. Yes, give it to me.
Hell yeah.
I mean, the best thing that I've found is killing moblins and Boko goblins as much as you can and collecting their parts to sell, because you can make quite a bit of money doing that. So I haven't been too short on money, but man, stuff is expensive in this game too. The fairies, the great fairies that you find, you have to pay them
to get them back to full power.
Yeah,
Yep.
you have to pay them quite a bit. And then when you do find different armors, buying that is pretty expensive as well. It's kind of nuts.
Yeah,
You're going to spend a couple thousand rupees.
And that's why people do the snow bowling farm, because you can pretty consistently get like 300 rupees, I think it is, per if you get a strike. And it's like, okay, you can repeat it over and over.
Yeah.
Does it take time? A little bit, but I mean, honestly, it's a little faster than what was the original way I did it. There was a deer hunt you can do, I believe, in one of the villages, and you get all the prime meat from it. And then all I would do is, okay, you just cook a couple prime meat together, sell it, cook it, sell it, cook it, sell it. And then
There's a lot of little ways to make money like that in this game too. Like certain people want certain items that you can collect.
Yep.
You know, if you bring me this many fire lizards, I'll give you this many rupees. If you bring me this many of this flower, I'll give you this many rupees. So there's different ways to make money.
Yeah, it's not so much about finding it in grass and pots as it is about finding the items you can use to make money off of them.
It's kind of a nice twist on it anyway. Because like I said, previous Zelda games, man, you get tired of seeing those little green rupees. You're like, fuck off, I don't even want to see you. So when I got done with the Great Plateau and I got my paraglider...
Love it.
I was ready. I was like, okay, here we go. Because I had no concept of how big this world was and what I was walking into yet. 'Cause I don't think when I played it the first time, I even got off the Great Plateau, or I just had. It was like right there where you guys kind of took over, right? I fly down, and I don't know if it's where I landed or what, but oh my God, the difficulty level just increased so hard. I'm surrounded by mob goblins, like huge ones, and I got a swarm of bats coming for me over and over again, and I've got 3 hearts and like no stamina. You start off with the smallest amount of stamina. I'm trying to get away. It was just a mess at first. It was... I remember though, I landed and I looked at you. I'm like, "Is this what this is? What's going on?"
I heard a lot of complaints the first couple days.
Well, that was I think I landed in a pretty terrible spot. I think that was on me, but I got through it. Started getting on my way. Figured out where Kakariko Village was, because the game does kind of push you to go there first.
It does give you main locations to head towards.
Yeah, to kind of get the story rolling. It's real loose. And that was another thing that I was thinking about. It's a beautiful way of not putting any pressure on the player. I did not feel pressure at all.
No, and that's the vibe they're going for. They really want you to feel like it's okay to go out and explore, to check things out. And yeah, you're going to run into areas you're not ready for. That'll happen.
Yeah.
But it's still interesting to go and like, hey, what's behind this little nook and cranny? Is that a cave? Is that, you're always looking for stuff. And it's not like, hey, there isn't Navi there. Like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Get your ass over there. Ganon's going to kill everybody. It's like, no, you got to take your time, build your strength up, learn how to play. It's okay. Like, it's very relaxing in that way.
Yeah.
Even though some parts of it are pretty hard.
Some parts are, but like you say, when you run into that stuff, like sometimes I look off in the distance, you climb a mountain or a big hill, and you're like, I wonder if I can get to that shrine. I see a tower over there. It'd be cool to get more map figured out
Yeah.
maybe I can get there. And there was a couple that I've tried to get to that I would get so close. And then right at the end, it's like, oh my gosh, there's a bunch of guardians everywhere. This is not going to happen. I got to let it go and walk away. Right.
Yeah. That one's tough.
Doesn't feel like the end of the world if you can't quite push through, because you know that there's like the area that you just came from, you were able to handle, right? Mm-hmm. At first it is kind of a push because like I said, you only have 3 hearts and you don't have much stamina. And then when I get to Kakariko Village and they explain to me that every 4 shrines I can choose either another heart vessel or more stamina, I was like, oh my gosh, you guys, why? That felt so cruel to me. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I had to think about it and remember, like, okay, think about Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Like, it takes a while to build up heart vessels and stuff. There's a lot of work there. Yep. But the stamina really bothered me. The stamina that you start with, for as many hills and mountains there are, for rivers that you got to cross, there's so much that you need stamina for. And luckily in this game, you can cook things, you can cook food and make elixirs out of monster parts that'll give you some more stamina. So once I started figuring out those things, when you're halfway through a river and you're like, hey, I'm not going to make it, you can give yourself a boost to get to the other side, right? Yep. Or when you're climbing a tower and you're like, oh man, I'm not going to make it.
Food is a cure. Food and elixirs, but mainly food is the cure all of like, hey, I'm about to be screwed. Oh, eat health. Oh, eat stamina.
This monster's really hitting hard. I need more hearts. Temporary heart vessels. Like once you get those down and you start getting going on your collection of ingredients that you're carrying, it really, really helps you. Even if you're in an area that's a little too tough for you, you can push through quite a bit. If you go carefully and use your stuff wisely, you can get through some hard stuff. So they balanced it all really well that way.
Yeah.
And I do like, at first I was a little irritated by how much there was between food and elixirs. There's so many ingredients. There's so many different ingredients.
But once you learn to differentiate
like
them.
The food, it'll tell you, okay, this is going to give you more defense. This is going to increase your stamina. This is going to give you temporary hearts. This is going to make you sneakier. There's a lot of foods that do the same thing. And I thought for a second, maybe mixing the things that would do the same thing would make a really good. That does not work. That's not a good idea. There's so much of everything that it gets kind of overwhelming at first. But it's nice to have all those different things because certain areas have abundances of certain items, right?
Yep.
And then you get the same thing with the monster parts. Those descriptions are a little more vague though. But I gotta say, like, it's nice cooking food that will give you a defense boost, an attack boost, and also heal you. But at the same time, it's kind of nice to have certain elixirs that'll do those things for you where you're not, your hearts are full. You don't need to waste this food that's going to give you 10 plus hearts just because you need a little bit more stamina right now. You know what I mean?
And do you mind, like, if I explain it a little bit?
Yeah.
So essentially you'll have food items you can use and mix together. And usually all food items heal you a little bit. And sometimes they have nice side effects like, extra hearts, quiet, all that fun stuff. But then when you start getting into like the bugs and lizards and stuff, that's kind of your elixir items. You mixed the bugs, elixirs, lizards, and monster parts.
Yes.
That's how you make an elixir. So the better quality of monster part you mix in, the more time that elixir takes effect.
Yeah, the more effect it has.
Yep. And then so like adding enough like fire resistant lizards will really increase your fire resistance.
Yep.
And then adding a bunch of good monster parts means that you have a lot more time. So you're not like chugging potions every 5 minutes,
So things like bugs, frogs, I think the snails you cook with monster parts.
Butterflies. Anything that doesn't seem as good of an edible item like fish, chicken, meat is your elixir stuff and then all that good.
Dude, there's so many kinds of fish in this game that all do different things.
Yeah,
That's
armor bass. Cool. There's like the staminoka.
There's all these different fish. That's kind of cool too. And they're all in different areas. So like what whatever river you're in, you'll find a lot of one thing, and then you go to a different spot, there's a lot of different, the variety is wild in this game. Like, it's overwhelming at first because there's, like I said,
what does all this shit do?
And it takes a minute to figure it out because you got to just try stuff. And then there's honey and rock salt. There's Hyrule herb. There's all these extra things. And you're like, well, what happens when I add these things to it? Yep. There's carrots and radishes and
everything you can think of. And like Link makes some tasty looking dishes sometimes.
You're going to make some bad looking stuff. It's going to be some dubious food, but it'll still heal you a little bit. And if you need a heart or two, not a big deal, right?
And have you noticed around some people will tell you about recipes that they know how to make, or you'll even find posters that'll show like, hey, you mix these items, you make this.
Yeah. In Kakariko Village, there's that little girl that you make some recipes with.
Yeah.
She wants to be a chef.
Oh.
Yeah. So then I go to Hateno Village, find some stuff there. It's kind of back and forth for a little while. I was going through and exploring like the surrounding areas there and going back and forth to those villages, hitting up a bunch of shrines so I could get more stamina and a little bit more heart vessels. And then I decided to head for Zora River because I had talked to somebody that had given me the down low on where that was located. And I completed that and got that divine beast back because that's the main goal is get 4 divine beasts.
Big old robot elephant.
Yeah, and then you can go defeat Ganon with them. That feels like home when you're on that mission and doing that thing, working towards that goal. That feels so familiar, really fun. When I got to this divine beast is called Varuta. You go inside and there's a lot of puzzles that you got to figure out to take over this divine beast again. That was probably the hardest part puzzle-wise.
Yeah.
Like the shrines, the Korok seed puzzles, none of that is super hard. It's pretty, you take a second, you can figure it out. This one really threw me for a loop halfway through, and I could not figure it out. And I finally had to give up and look it up online because it was like, I can't spend like 3 hours dicking around like I used to with Zelda games when we were kids, you know? Yep. And that was a case of, when you're in Varuta, if you go to your map, then you can adjust the trunk and then that'll change the way the water's spraying and like, honestly, there's points in this game where they don't tell you information like that you really need to know. You just kind of have to look and find it. Like, I didn't know that I could change the trunk and the spray. That's never mentioned at any point. Or if it is, I didn't read it.
Okay, so this is, for me, I remember
I asked you and you did not remember this either.
I couldn't remember that you could do that, but I do know that once I saw you do that, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, you can.
Yeah, after.
There's some like thing you can do with the map for all the divine beasts.
Well, now that I know that, I'll remember to check that in the future.
Yeah, exactly. You know that now. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that someone did say something about it, but I don't think it's like, I don't remember if it's super clear about it. It's like, hey, check out your map and see what you can do with the divine beasts. And you're like, what? But
probably. It was probably something vague like that. And I was like, I don't need a map.
There's this one thing you do when you play games.
Me?
You. And it's funny. We were talking about the controls and like how sometimes doesn't feel quite right. But you will ask me, how do I do something? And I'm like, God, I remember there was like a whole bar of buttons at the bottom that would be like, hey, this is what you do to do this. And I feel like whenever there's something on the screen that isn't like in the middle of it telling you can do it, it's like up at the top or at the side. You like ignore it completely.
That is not true. That's not true. Because I was asking you about like attacks, how you parry and stuff. That's not at the bottom of the screen when you are fighting. The only time that controls come to the bottom of the screen is when you're on your horse, when you're climbing or swimming. That's it.
No.
Yeah. When?
It's when you're fighting.
No.
It says things right at the bottom.
Okay, well, I don't see that
See, that's what I mean. It literally shows it down, and I don't blame you because you're
attention.
Yes, and this is the thing. You tunnel vision on the combat, and that's okay. You get focused, but it is saying those things down there. Yes, it absolutely is, because that's how I was like, oh yeah, this is how I jump, because it's been so long since I played it. Usually, I try to replay the game ahead of time, and in this particular example, I just haven't had time, but I had played it a lot and I remembered how I feel, and you know what I mean? And I was like, okay, look at the bottom. It'll tell me how I do things, but what it says you can do changes based on what you're doing. Do you have your bow out? Are you aiming? Do you have your shield out? Do you have your weapon? Like, it constantly changes. So it can be a little confusing sometimes because controls change depending on, do you have your bow out? Do you have your shield out? Do you, yada, yada, yada.
To me, that's not the part that makes me confused. I will say, overall in this game, as much as I am enjoying it, the controls really, really frustrate me. And I don't think they were done super well. And it's not that they necessarily change depending on what you're doing. It's how they change. And I pointed out, like, to boost your movement speed, it's 3 different buttons in 3 different situations. Mm-hmm. If you are running, you're going to press B. Mm-hmm. If you are swimming, you're going to press A. You're on your horse, you press A. If you're climbing, you're going to press X up top.
Yeah, to jump.
The fact that button changes so much depending on what you're doing, and you got to think about it this way in this game, you're running around and you're riding your horse. You get off your horse, you're climbing a hill, there's a river, you're doing so many of these things in succession all the time, up, down, in, out, that it's constantly moving where that button is. So a lot of the time I hop back on my horse, accidentally hop right off, because what I was just using to run now dismounts me from my horse. I gotta press A instead of B to get my horse moving. Like, that part is frustrating to me. The way they did these controls isn't the smoothest to me. I'm getting better at it the more I play, but at first it was frustrating. The controls were frustrating at first.
I do think that the controls, out of everything in this big game that you can learn and do and figure out, the controls is the toughest learning curve. The more you play, the easier it gets. And I remember, when I was playing my run, like, I had no problems. I remembered everything because I had been playing it for freaking 2 months or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And coming back into it, like, we were trying to beat a guardian, right? A full-fledged stalker one.
I ran into a guardian. You're like, you can't kill those. And I'm like, I need the special arrow, the ancient arrow first. And you're like, no, you can kill him without it. And I'm like, I don't think so, because I do no damage to these things, hardly at all. You're like, shoot it in the eye. Put a bomb under it, flip it over. Oh, yeah. And, like, it made sense what you said. So I tried it and tried it and tried it and tried it. I kept dying. And finally I'm like, hey, you come show me, because I can't do it.
And then you watch me flop around like an idiot because I couldn't remember how to do anything because it's been so long since I played it.
Because the controls aren't intuitive.
Yeah, it isn't.
There are some games that you pick up and it feels easy.
Yeah.
This one does not feel that way. Is it the worst thing in the world? No. The longer you play, the easier it gets. But I think they should have done it differently. And I know that that's hard, because there's just a lot of things you can do in this game.
Yeah.
Part of that problem that comes into it is your Sheikah Slate having the powers that you have. You have 2 different types of bombs you can use. You have your magnesis power, where you can control magnetic objects. You have your stasis power, where you can stop objects from moving or move big, heavy objects. And then you have your cryogenics power, where you can freeze water. Mm-hmm. You have all these things that you can use. And you need a lot of buttons to use those.
Yeah.
Okay. And even using those feels really messy. Like magnesis and the stasis. Not so much the stasis, I'll say. Maybe the magnesis is the most messy feeling to me. When you zap a metal object and you're trying to move it around, It could be worse. I definitely get that, but it's not that great. It's really hard to move that object the way that you want it to and to set it down the way you want it to. And a lot of the problem is the push and pull on it, whether it's far away from you or closer. The height is reversed. Like, there's so much going on there. And again, they got to reassign all these previous buttons in that moment. And as soon as you let go of that and that stops, everything's reassigned again. There's just a lot of back and forth. There's a lot to be aware of and to learn how to use, you know, getting in and out of situations. It just gets tricky.
I think that's an interesting thought, because part of me wonders what they're going to do in Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, me too.
There's a lot of people that have been playing this game still, like recently, even before they knew Tears of the Kingdom was going to come out in May. They're still playing this game, doing crazy things. It
takes 5 years just to find everything.
And I wonder if they're going to make some control changes, but if you do that too much, it's going to make
then
all the people
will be confused.
Yeah,
that's
and
the hard part.
it's like, okay, this game is really good, even with the difficult controls you got to learn how to use.
Well,
so maybe
and it's like we were saying, it's not that they're super hard, but it is a learning curve, and that goes into that tricky thing of like, do you change it now and then piss off everybody, or do you leave it and people that don't get it are just sorry, it sucks to suck, right?
Maybe just some smoothing out, or even
a little bit of smoothing out.
Control editing, like maybe you can change. I don't know. I guess I haven't looked in the settings of this.
There's certain times when I'm running around and I'll run by a tree and all of a sudden I grab onto it, even though I didn't click X to climb it, and I'm climbing a tree and I'm trying to get off of it. Or even cooking at first was kind of stupid hard, because I would hold these items and then be standing right in front of the pot, and I would drop them and they would drop into the fire instead of into the pot, even though I'm right next to them. And then all my ingredients are burning up. And in the beginning, when you don't have a surplus of these things, that's kind of a of a death sentence right there at certain points. You're like, oh crap, you know, there's some control things that don't work super well. And for as big as what this map is and how many things you can do, this is such a minute thing in the grand scheme of it that you almost feel bad complaining about it. But at the same time, I have a lot of moments where this really does make a difference to me in the game. If I'm running away from an enemy and I all of a sudden start climbing a tree, like, here I am, shoot me with your arrows, zap me with your laser beam. You know how many times this happened? It's so frustrating, because if you need to press X to climb, hey game, make me press X to climb every time. And if I don't, then don't make me grab trees unless I am like, even controlling your horse, there's just, it's messy feeling to me.
I actually like how the horse works, because it feels like a horse should. Look,
it probably does.
I'm okay with games like making it so you like control the horse directly, like it's your person. And I'm fine with that. That's okay. But there's something nice about like, hey, I direct the horse in the direction I want to go, and then I tell it to giddy up and it goes. It sounds so stupid. You're playing a Zelda game and it's like, oh yeah, I want realism in how I control my horse, even though I can freaking wing glide halfway across the map as long as I keep eating fucking food. But I think to me, the horse actually felt good, because then once I got to a certain point, it's like, okay, I'm fighting enemies. I set the horse on a path, and then it's like, okay, I can shoot enemies. I can focus on combat while the horse keeps going, and I know the horse isn't going to just run me off a cliff. It might run me and stop at a cliff, but it won't run me off a cliff.
Well, that's not really what I'm talking about, though.
Okay, maybe I misinterpreted. What do you mean?
There are times when there are obstacles that you can jump over with your horse that you've done many times, and then one time you run up to it and it stops. There are times when you are on a hill and you can descend on your horse and all of a sudden it'll stop and act like, oh, that's a ledge, I can't go off of it, but you can. And you will stop, you'll press A again and it'll go. It's things like that that are messy to me. It's not the way that they steer or the way that they run or anything like that. And it is nice that they stop at cliffs, but there's points and pockets in this game where they can't register the landscape super well, I think.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. It's like
what
the
I'm
horse
talking
AI going, no, we shouldn't do this. And you're like, no, it's okay.
But it totally can. And you tell it to do it again and it does.
I suppose I
Even when
vaguely
you
remember some
whistle
of that
for
happening.
it, it'll take the weirdest path sometimes. Not
Yeah.
the easiest path.
No.
Not the road that it's on. It'll go off the road and then get stopped by a rock.
We
and you're
don't
like,
need no roads.
hey, bruh, you just made your life super hard. And whistling for you was not purposeful now. Thank you, horse. I mean, I love them. They're great. But yeah, there's just little kinks like that, right? And I'm sure it'll get better the next time around. Because like I said, it does feel wild to even complain about it because this map is so freaking huge. I can't imagine the amount of work that goes into all the movement that all these characters have to do and finding all these spots. It's wild to me. To me, I feel like they did a fantastic job. This is really nitpicking, right?
I think this is the way to think about it, is we are nitpicking a game that is really, really good, but these are some problems you might come up against if you start this game for the first time, or if you're trying to show this game to someone for the first time, and it really might throw people off.
At first.
For
a short time.
Yeah,
I
but
think.
if you can get past that, I think it's like better to be aware of things that might annoy people and put people off so that you're ready to really experience all this game has to offer.
Because it's not stuff that happens super often.
Well, I think we've been nitpicking it probably a little more than we should. What's some things you really enjoyed? Like, what was things you really liked? You talked about the story and how that went.
I really enjoyed the way they did the story and the way they progressed the story. That felt so smooth and just absolutely perfect to me. There's no pressure on having to do any certain thing at any certain time. You can literally go anywhere you want. If you can make it past the enemies, you're good. And you're going to move the story forward. That is such a fantastic feat in the first place with such a huge open world. Making an open world game has a really challenging aspect to it.
Story is tough in an open world game.
And they've
like
done this so well. Like, I just can't say in words how well they did that.
How much
it's
you like
amazing. Another thing that just made me stop sometimes was the scenery. The way that the wind moves things around you when the wind is blowing. When it's not, it won't. When the rain falls, rocks are glistening, everything looks wet. When the sun is shining, your shadow is following you in the direction opposite the sun. When it's nighttime, there's shadows from the moon if it's a full moon. And if it's not, it's a little darker out. Like, the environment in this game is absolutely wild. It's crazy. It's done so well. And on the Switch, it looks really, really good. I think it's very, very impressive.
This game pushes the Switch pretty hard, but the Switch handles it quite well. I don't really ever remember feeling like the game stuttered.
I had one.
Yeah.
And I was playing for quite a few hours at that point, and it couldn't load up an area right. And it took a second, and then all the trees popped in.
Oh, okay.
I don't really blame it for that. Like I said, I think the Switch was tired by that point. I was kind of like, I should probably...
What are you doing to me?
Yeah. All the movement of the insects, the movement of the animals, because there's a lot of different animals. I'm still finding new animals as I play. There's ostriches, there's deer, there's wild boar. There's all different kinds of birds, like ducks and pelicans, cranes, little, I don't even know, kind of, not pigeons. They look like...
Kind of like turkey-ish, dodo, pheasant kind of thing.
Pheasant-ish, thank you. There's all the different enemies and how they move and how different they are. The environment is absolutely, and I mean, that was the biggest thing with this game, right? Was how cool it looked and how well it all worked together. That was amazing. I also really like, at first I didn't think I would like this because we are used to old school Zelda where you get a quiver for your arrows, you get a bomb bag, you get a rupee bag, you get all this stuff and you got to acquire it. But in this one, you don't have to do that. Like I said, you have your Sheikah Slate powers. You have bombs right away. Remote bombs right away.
Yep.
As many as you want. There is a cooldown time, which kind of sucks sometimes, but it's still unlimited bombs. Arrows, you pick them up right away. You can carry as many as you want. I haven't found a limit
Link
yet.
has deep pockets.
Super. Rupees, carry as many as you want. Haven't found a limit yet, and I've had a few thousand. It's really nice to just kind of streamline over those normal stopping points in a Zelda game.
Like money gating you, because sometimes it's like you can't even purchase something you want because you don't have a big enough wallet. And that was a way to make the game more linear, to like force you to like complete the game in a certain way, right?
Right.
You know, and that's how those games work. But this one is so not about that, so they took that out. There's no limit in that way.
It is kind of nice to not have those gates anymore.
Yeah, right?
I'm not going to lie. I actually do enjoy that very, very much.
Well, okay, just
Trying to think about what else I also really, really enjoyed.
Well, how about this? Like, let's talk about the weapon durability and stuff like that. We should talk about that. And I also want to hear, like, what's the favorite weapon you've found?
Well, so that's a new spin on this one, is weapon durability, shield durability, bow durability.
Mm-hmm.
Everything breaks. Everything breaks really fast, faster than you think it should.
Yeah.
And at first, that's pretty frustrating because you're getting some pretty weak stuff.
Yep. I got a stick. It's broken already.
One hit and it breaks. I'm at the point now where I'm actually finding decent stuff on the regular. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel so dry getting a decent weapon. I'm using a lot of the lizard trifork right now. That's just what I'm finding a lot of. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I even have a favorite weapon. I like having a one-handed sword the most, but I haven't found a good high attack one yet. But it's really nice having a mixture, mostly. I try to keep a decent mixture on. It's nice having spears because you can get some distance from your enemies.
Yeah.
But they don't do as much attack. It's nice having a big cleaver when you find like a huge Hinox and you just want to slice that dude up. It's really nice being able to carry a hammer so that you can smash rocks and find gemstones. It's nice having those little triforks from those lizard folk. They do really good damage. It's a short weapon, though. You got to get in close, but you can, finish the job pretty quick with those things.
Have you tried throwing those boomerang weapons?
I haven't. So, again, this is another thing where I was like, I got a boomerang, like an actual boomerang.
Yep.
And I'm like, how in the hell do I throw this freaking thing? And it did not come up on the bottom of the screen.
Yep.
And I went to the menu and looked at it, and I'm like, dude, there's no instructions on how to use this freaking thing. Then, like, days later, a save points, or not a save point, but it's loading up for a new area.
Yep.
And the tip comes across, when you have a boomerang, press R. And I'm like, you mother effers. Could not find that information anywhere. Thanks, tip screen.
Yeah.
I don't have that boomerang anymore. It was broken days ago.
Yeah.
But now I know how to do it, so I'll try it.
Those
So annoying.
Those Lizalful tri boomerangs, they make decent short swords. But if you throw them, they actually do a lot of damage. Like, they do extra damage as thrown weapons compared to your regular stuff, which I thought is like...
Even a regular boomerang does pretty good damage.
Yep.
Yeah, surprisingly.
It's kind of one of those little interesting things. It's like, this thing looks like I should throw it. And if you do, like, there is a payoff for it. And I appreciate that.
Shields... Whatever is the toughest is what I carry.
Yep.
I don't go through a lot of them because I'm bad at blocking in every game. So,
wait till you start shield surfing and then you'll...
Yeah, I saw that. I couldn't understand the directions for that either. I was like, I'm busy finding
It can
shrines.
be tricky to make happen. There's a thing you can do out in the desert that you haven't gotten. There's these sand seals.
Yeah.
And if you can catch one or you can rent one, you'll tie a rope to the sand seal, you'll throw down your shield, and you can surf across the desert because there's so much area in the desert.
So many cool things.
It's so much fun.
As far as bows go, I love getting the forest dweller bow that shoots 3 arrows at once.
Oh yeah, the multi-arrow ones.
I love that.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
It still only uses 1 arrow.
Still only uses 1 arrow by magic. That's what the tip said. It's magic. That's really handy sometimes. When I do get that, I try not to use it unless I've got like a lot of things up against me.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm trying to be real sneaky and totally wipe a group out. But yeah, the durability thing sucks, but as you get going, like in Zora River, I found a trident that I can go back to the Zora domain and they will repair it for me when I break it. So knowing that eventually I'm going to get a few weapons that I can always get back when I need them that are decent, that's a little bit comforting. I mean, by the time you get those, you're ready to have that insurance. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. Have that as a backup.
It's a little heartbreaking at first having your weapons break on you, but I got to the point where I was like, I just got to learn. You told me this too. You just got to learn to let it go. Use them up. Don't worry about it. You're going to find more stuff. And they do plant a lot of stuff everywhere. There's, you know, it's not the greatest stuff at first, rusty claymores and things like that.
Yeah.
But it still does damage. And if you combine shooting your arrows at an enemy and then running in and hitting them, or even using your bombs that you have, like I said, unlimited bombs, you're going to get through it and they're going to drop weapons and you can use those for a while. That's one thing that they did really, really well. So they made that system, but they made it so that you're never going to be starving for weapons. There's always some laying around, and there's always certain ones that are going to respawn in certain points.
Yeah.
And that helps a lot too.
Once you learn, like, okay, I can get a night claymore if I go here, or I can get, you know, the night weapons are good baseline weapons to have, right? Or like this is like you go onto the Goron Mountain and you find the rock breaker and hammer weapons. Hammers. You know,
there's woodcutter axes.
Like
by Kakariko Village.
And this is like the nice things they do. You have a woodcutter axe, you
can cut down a tree and cut a goblin's head off.
Yeah, I really like those weapons early on, but I usually ended up like I would have a hammer and I would have an axe, because an axe to cut down trees does not lose as much durability using it against a tree. Just like a hammer doesn't lose as much durability against breaking rocks. So there's all these like little tiny like tweaks they do to make things like, okay, this is reasonable. I can use this axe a lot to chop down trees. I should be able to. That's what it's for. But if I'm using it against enemies in armor, yeah, it's probably not going to last as long. I like I said in the beginning, the first half, it's like the durability is usually the hardest thing most people have coming up against. And once you learn to kind of let go of like, it's okay, it makes it feel a lot better. And honestly, it's balanced pretty well. I think it just comes down to personal preference. Some people just can't stand durability on stuff, or it should be super slow and I should be able to repair it or whatever. It's
really fast in this game.
Yeah, it feels real fast in the beginning.
But there's also a ton of treasure chests everywhere around this whole world where there's weapons in them. Bows, shields, swords.
And you didn't even use amiibos to get some free stuff.
Yeah, I haven't even done that yet.
Yep.
I've just been enjoying the game for what it is, for what they made.
Well, I knew this episode was going to go long because there's a lot to talk about.
It rightly should.
Yeah. I
did want to point out too, like when I started it up and I see the environment and then the things that you can pick up have a little white sparkle to them. I was like, oh my God, it's Dragon Quest all over again.
That's what you said to me. I'm like, sure.
You can see the influence there.
Yeah.
The other thing is we've been playing Monster Hunter Rise like crazy, right? Mm-hmm. The thing about this game is there's so much verticality in this game too. And that's what also makes this map so huge. It's not flat. No. There's so many mountains and hills, and it's worth climbing up on because you usually find certain like food items, but there's usually a Korok seed at the top of a mountain, at the top of a hill. And you can also get a nice viewpoint to find shrines and towers and things like that are nearby. But the verticality makes this map so much bigger, and that made me think of Monster Hunter Rise. You almost wonder if that helped influence that in some way.
That Zelda helped influence Rise?
Yeah.
I mean, very, very possibly.
I personally, I guess Skyrim has verticality to it, but it doesn't
you can't just
feel
climb
like
a mountain. Like you have to do like a weird jumping thing up any steep incline to find purchase. You're
not really supposed to, right?
Yeah.
And on this, you are supposed to.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you see it, climb up it. Mm-hmm. It's done really well that way, but it is also a point that I wanted to bring up was it's getting fun for me trying these games out and seeing like what came from what, or who does this, like this person did this game.
Yep.
It's all connecting and building the space in my head that you already have in your head, where you see all the influences and where this is coming from. And that's kind of fun for me now.
Yeah.
You know, I was really separated in what I liked and what I didn't like, and to see what goes into this and that and why it's made that way. It's all connected. To see the web. I see the web of it all now. Or at least more of it, you know?
Well, it's like the towers always remind me of Assassin's Creed. You have to go up to a tall built special perch and then you like unlock the map and see things.
Yeah.
And it's what I've talked about before. The nice thing about video games is if some person does it so right, other people like to take those ideas and put them in their game. And then you get, I mean, like
really
gaming,
good game.
it's like a gumbo. Like
Yeah.
you're getting all these different bits in, and like some people try to make something like, oh, I'm going to throw all these great ingredients in, and you get a bad gumbo, right? Because
Yeah.
they didn't think about how it mixes. But then you get games like this that it's like, it's open world, it's Zelda, you got the towers, you can like all these different things from different games and inspired by them and refined, and like it comes out so good and you get these really good things. And now after Breath of the Wild, you got like these other games that do very Breath of the Wild feeling vibes.
Yeah.
You know? And
Even Pokemon Arceus.
yes, exactly.
You can see that a lot of that was taken from Breath of the Wild. I really do think the smoothness that they tried to bring into Arceus of like getting on and off your mounts, picking up items, that really came from Breath of the Wild. It feels like the environment.
Yeah.
And even Arceus, it's not even done as well, right?
No.
Breath of the Wild, man, they took a long time on it, but it was so worth it because what
really
they gave
was.
us is, it's even if that came out today, it would still be really impressive. Like I'm playing it through for the first time. It's still really impressive to me.
Oh, yeah. I
I
really
don't know if it's my favorite Zelda of all time.
That's
But that's
tricky.
hard. I haven't beaten it yet. I'm heading up Death Mountain right now.
Yes.
So, I mean, I'm not even halfway through. There's a lot to this game. It's huge. But I really, really love it at this point. And I think it's a really good successor to what we've had previously.
I agree with that. I really enjoy Breath of the Wild. I don't mind coming back to it to experience it. Like I said, I think I've started about 3 games, even though I haven't finished one.
Oh, my goodness.
That's
Shame.
Yeah, well, my farthest game's on the Wii U, and like I was like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna beat a game on the Switch instead, and I just haven't got around to it. I really enjoy this, and anybody who likes open world games, like a fantasy adventure, if they like Zelda, I think they can really learn to love this game. The hardest part about it, like we said, like nitpicking, is the controls take a little bit getting used to. But if you want a game that you can buy for $60, and I know Nintendo
And
games
play for the rest of your life.
yeah, you like
you can literally keep finding new things for forever.
yeah. If you need that one game that's gonna last you
Yeah.
3 months, a year, this is the game to get. Like this is you can put
Like,
time into.
Let me put it this way. Slime Rancher's fun, but you're going to find it all, right?
Yeah. Yep.
You're not going to find it all in Breath of the Wild. Like it almost makes me panic because you know as you're going through, like I'm trying to stay focused on heading to Goron Mountain, but it's really hard because
It's easy to get
you
distracted.
know there's so much around you that and you're trying to check out every little nook and cranny
Yep.
and you just can't. You just can't now. It's fun though.
Is there any last things you felt are really important that you wanted to talk about your experience? I just want to give you a chance before we get into our little ending spiel.
Well, you know why Ganon doesn't like the internet? Oh, I got you.
Oh, you son of a gun. Why does Ganon not like the internet?
There's too many links. I made him laugh.
Okay,
I got
okay.
you.
I want that one.
In honor of Breath of the Wild,
In honor
we
of
needed
Breath
a
of the
Zelda
Wild.
joke.
So let's get your final rating.
What do you think it's going to be?
I think you're going to give it a 9 out of 10.
I think it's a 10 out of 10.
Oh, 10 out of 10.
I think this game is fantastic. I think, even the little complaints that I've had about it while I'm playing, overall, it's such a small number compared to all the good things about it and how much I've played it. I've played this pretty constantly. How much I've been enjoying it. I love it. It's challenging. It's fun. There's so much to explore. And like you said, I do like exploring. But there's also a purpose. There's things to do. It doesn't feel like a waste of time ever. I love this game. And they made it absolutely gorgeous. The music's great. You get all the old favorites, but, you know, it's done so well. The dialogue's good. The scenes are good. The story's fantastic. It really sucked me in. I love this game. I wish Dragon Quest was more like this game. Mm-hmm. I would have played the shit out of Dragon Quest. Like, this is Dragon Quest sped up with Zelda. I love it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would say Zelda is a more adventure action game.
Yes.
And then Dragon Quest is an adventure RPG game. And I think that RPG element slows it down. Like,
even though they sped it up, and
yeah.
like, I give them credit for that. They tried to quicken it up, make it a little more, you know, enjoyable.
I think there's just a lot more exploration in this one.
Yeah,
you know,
and puzzles to solve. Like,
I do have to say this though, and the funny thing about watching her play this, from the moment she started, she didn't tell me good things that she liked about this game. She always complained about the little nitpicky things she didn't like, or the things that she found frustrating before she figured it out. So I'm hearing all these negative things that she's talking about this game, and I'm talking to her a little bit about it, but every night she picks that Switch back up and is playing more. And I'm like, you know, it's funny. You keep complaining about the game, but every night you're playing that game again.
You're making it sound like all I did was just complain the whole time I played.
It wasn't the whole time.
No.
The second week you actually started saying good things. The first week you played it, you didn't say a positive thing about it to me, but you kept playing it. And I knew that you were enjoying it. And I just kind of reveled in it. I was like, this is kind of funny. She's like, she's trying to act tough, but I know better.
It's gonna break her down.
So how about, do you think you're going to play this again?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to have a hard time getting off of this game. Just like, I'm going to have a really hard time stopping.
That
I have no desire to stop. That's partially why it's a 10 out of 10. If you don't want to stop playing, why would you give this such a low rating?
Absolutely.
It almost needs to be like a 12 out of 10. 'Cause good luck trying to get me to play your next game. I feel the way I did with Monster Hunter Rise. Like, I don't want to stop. And it took a game like this to get me to stop playing Monster Hunter Rise. And also, we're like high rank 50s, and we've kind of beaten everything we can beat until that expansion comes out, which is really soon, and I'm super stoked for that.
Yep.
I'm going to be really sad when it comes out, and I got to remember how to play Monster Hunter Rise, because I was...
We can warm up. It's okay.
I was finally getting good at using the insect glaive, and now I'm going to go into it and just be crap for a couple runs, but I'll get back into the swing of it, and then I'll mess up playing Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild is going to take a while. Mm-hmm. That's a long-term game.
It definitely is.
So in 2 years when I finish it, I'll let everybody know.
Okay,
because I feel like it might take that long.
So I successfully added another game to your short list of great games you're going to keep coming back to. Yeah,
I really want to finish it. I love it.
That is literally the biggest success I can have on this podcast. If I make a game that's like, I have to come back to it. It's Monster Hunter. It's Inscription. It's Heroes of Might and Magic. It's Northgard. You know, like, if I can put one up on that tier.
Northgard's going down on that tier, man. Every time I load it up, there's all these new things, and they've changed it so much. It's like hard to keep up. But
I think for me personally, like games like Northgard and Heroes of Might and Magic 5, which is our favorite Heroes of Might and Magic, is that when we're in the mood for that, those are the ones that we go to.
Together,
yeah, exactly. But you know,
if I'm gonna do a solo game, why not do Inscription or Breath of the Wild?
Yeah, exactly.
Or, Monster Hunter. It feels worth it. We've talked about that before. Yeah. You can play around in Monster Hunter and get some parts, and you feel like you did something. Breath of the Wild's like that too. You can play for a while, discover a shrine or two, and you feel like you did something.
Yeah, you don't have to do a lot. Spend a half hour, do a few things. Okay, I'll come back.
4 hours later.
That's the hard part. I want to thank Brother Ray for our caricatures.
Woo, we love them.
I appreciate them. I have fun editing them.
They're super cute.
They're amazing, and I love them.
Thank you for the music.
Thank you.
Thank you for the cool tune.
I meant to sneak that in somewhere and I forgot. So we'll do it right now. And we want to thank you, our listeners, and the various places you can find us, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. I have a TikTok that I'm being more active on and throwing clips on. We have live streams that we've been doing. Our life has not set up a time for us to have a consistent live stream schedule, but in the end, I always upload them fully on YouTube, so you can check them out after the fact. But,
Otherwise, sometimes you can catch it on Twitch. If you watch on Twitter, you usually try to let people know if you're going live soon.
Yep, I'll throw it on
You've been playing God of War.
Yes.
And then you and I have been playing It Takes Two.
Which has been a lot of fun.
That has been fun.
Yeah.
That game is pretty wild.
It is a wild ride.
Wild.
Oh my goodness.
Ray was in the chat and was asking how we like it, and it's like, I don't know how to answer that.
Though I think watching the crazy squirrel escapade we went on convinced him to try it out himself. So yeah, come on in. We at Co-ople mode on. It's either every Twitch, YouTube, TikTok. It's at Co-ople mode. If it's not with a dash, it's Koople mode, which I always think in my head, but they wouldn't let me put a dash when you search for it. Check it out, and if you enjoy Twitch, it'll warn you when we're doing a new live stream.
That's it.
I think that's it. I'm Matt.
I'm Rose.
And I hope you guys just keep gaming with your bestie. Ta-ta!